Fellow Rotarians and guests, it's a pleasure for me to invite you to our fellowship for today. It's okay. For our fellowship of the Rotary Club of Nairobi South. CP Josephine Achara from RCKU doing the 4-way test. Please go ahead, Josephine.
The 4-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Next, we're going to toast to the President of the Republic of Kenya. If you have a glass with you, or if you don't have a glass with you, you can just put your right hand across your left hand shoulder, and we're toasting to the President of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you. So I'm excited to say we have a great topic today and an amazing speaker in our midst. We'd also like to recognize the presence of RC Kikuyu and RC Gigiri, and also Rotary Club of Kenyatta University. Thank you guys, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm now going to call upon, we're going to go to the announcement section. So the first announcement is that tomorrow, Wednesday 11th, we're going to distribute, to present the sponsorship educational checks at Settles Girls tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Please, if you have time, be there. IPP Daisy and PP Jared Musima will be there, and you can get in touch with me if you will have time to join in. The other announcement we have is that next week we have each one bring one. So as we discussed last week on 24th, that is next week, every member is requested to kindly bring a friend, a colleague, or anybody to come and join in our fellowship. Basically, this is just to just inspire people to join Rotary, to see the work we are doing as Rotarians. And also we shall be talking about the projects that we've done previously and the projects that we're intending to do in future. And also just to fellowship with you guys, and we're hoping that other people will get a feel of Rotary and come to join us. So please, at least members, make sure you bring one person with you or even more. And our guests also, feel free to join us as we do this. So next we have Rotarian Ruth going to give us the speaker's bio. Please take this.
Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. This afternoon we have a very special speaker, Teddy Kinyanjui, and I will take you through his bio. For the majority of Teddy's career has been spent helping design, test, manufacture, and market energy-saving cook stoves, improved charcoal making kilns, charcoal baking ovens, and barbecues. As a significant part of Cookswell Jikos Limited. A significant part of Cookswell Jikos Limited is focused on making wood fuels a more sustainable energy source. He has spent 14 years working on developing dry land forestry, wood fuel production, management, and utilization techniques. During this time, he has trained participants from government, private institutions, Pan-African groups and religious organizations on sustainable harvesting of food fuels, providing them with tree planting technical advice, and leading sessions on conservation and management of forests. Part of his professional experience includes, he is currently the founder and director of Cookswell Jikos Limited. He's the trustee and lead field officer for the Woodlands 2000 Trust. He is co-founder of Seedballs Kenya. He's a forestry consultant for DANIDA and Karen Blixen Camp. He's the manager of the Kitengela Private Wood Fuel Arboretum. He's a consultant and works for CESVI Mogadishu, Improved Cook Stoves and Livelihoods Program, consultant for Dorcas Aid Shashamane, Ethiopia, Cook Stove Training Project, head of product marketing for Musaki Enterprise, co-host of the Kenya, Ghana, and Sierra Leone Stove Camp. This is 2016, 2017, and 2018. And carbonization technician for the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, Rwanda, for a peat and papyrus briquetting project. His achievements include being shortlisted as the Seedballs founder for the Global Index Design Awards in 2019, shortlisted for the Ashden International Energy Awards for Energy Access in 2012, World Bank winner of the C4C Energy Competition for 18 to 30-year-olds in 2011, and has been featured on various media, including CNN, CTGN BBC, and OCB Spain. With that, I would call Rotary and Kathy to introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to have you here. Teddy Kinyanjui, that's what I call him. I have known him from when he was born. I know his parents, Mr. Kinyanjui and Rosemary Kinyanjui. He's the last born of 3 children. He's got 2 older sisters, and he's the last born, but he is taller than them and bigger than them. He's a lovely boy. He's got a name that I didn't know. That's a long name, but when he was born, he was such a lovely child, his mother named him Teddy. So we call him Teddy Kinyanjui, and we love him very much. His father was known as a conservationist. He was an energy, he was into energy saving. So he produced Jikos, energy saving Jikos, and I think there's one in every home in Kenya. And he also was in partnership also with the Carnival, and they did a lot of woodlots, and his Jikos actually were used at Carnival. It's a very well-known place for Nyamachoma. So he was trying to save on energy and teaching people how to grow and harvest trees. Teddy has taken this miles higher. We are very proud of him. His late father must be very proud of him, because he's now making Jikos that are so fancy. I'm happy. I'm usually the guinea pig for them, and I love it. I have every type of Jiko that they design. Teddy is an innovative guy, and he has innovated the Seedballs. He says that he plants trees directly from seeds. And this is what he's going to talk to you about. I have witnessed this. He has done this before, and I have followed him doing that, and my children and other children in schools and people in Gong. And these trees do grow because you have many seedlings, and it is cheaper than even doing the seedlings. So the seed balls, you can keep them in your car and throw them as you drive along. I don't want to take his time, because I know we've taken a bit of your time. I want him to get straight into what he came to do. Thank you very much. He's a very busy guy. He's a globally known guy, and I am very proud of him. Welcome, Teddy, and thank you very much for accepting to come today and address us. Asante. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Auntie Kathy.
Welcome.
Yeah, lovely. Oh, thanks. Yeah, so as Auntie Kathy has very kindly introduced me, my name is Teddy Kinyanjui, And I've been helping run our family business, Cookswell Jikos, which has produced our latest project, which is called Seedballs Kenya. Our family goes back quite a long way. My late dad and Auntie Kathy's husband, Uncle Gengi, they were very close friends and very keen goat roasters. And my dad would always say, every time you eat a goat, you actually save even 10 trees in Kenya, because goats eat so many trees. So that was always a very fun thing as a kid growing up. When we'd invent new types of Jikos, we'd always take them over and test them out there and see how they work and how much charcoal they'd use and how people used them and what they thought. And that's been a standard for our business since then, is it's always customer-derived feedback. So whatever we learn from the customers, how they cook, whether it's too tall, too short, round, square, what have you, that's what we've been using to input all of our design for all the Jikos that we make now. Of course, through the whole Jiko business, what we've come to see over the years is that even when you have an energy-saving stove, something that uses less charcoal, when people have a high demand for energy, so say someone lives in a cold area and they want to heat up water for having a bath for the kids or something, you still have a high demand of charcoal. And as population grows and as more people move to urban areas where they can't cook with firewood, the charcoal use is continuing to go up. What we've seen recently that's really a really big use of charcoal, of course, is the more business use of charcoal. Because you can imagine, a small family might use a whole bag of charcoal in a month, but a busy nyama choma joint or a busy restaurant, they'll use a bag of charcoal every single day. And you start adding up those volumes, apparently just Nairobi city by itself uses as much as 700,000 kilos of charcoal per day. Because if you imagine a city of 6 million people, if even a fifth of them use half a kilo almost per day, it's a lot of charcoal every single day of the year. So after doing many, many years of working with using less charcoal and creating the tools for people to be energy efficient with their charcoal use, we realized that that's only one part of the entire cycle. One thing that's also just as important is, of course, growing the right types of traditional indigenous trees that are being overexploited and being used for charcoal all over Kenya. So in the early 2000s, my dad and the owners of the Carnivore restaurant, because of course you can imagine they use a lot of charcoal for nyama choma, they were very concerned about this. And they're saying, what's going to happen with all of this deforestation, especially in those dry land parts of Kenya where people are cutting acacia trees mostly. So we started doing a whole bunch of research on how do you actually grow a bag of charcoal. And we realized there wasn't very much agronomics behind the whole charcoal farming, so to speak. And so we started doing experiments in Kitengela town back in the early 2000s when the town was not much of a town. It was more just open plains. But we started doing different experiments on how do you actually grow these different indigenous trees and get a bag of charcoal. And what we saw is basically it takes about 100 shillings over 10 years in order to grow one tree that's big enough that you don't have to cut down the whole tree. You just cut the branches off and you're able to use that to make charcoal. So that was a very big revolution for us, being able to show people that you don't need to cut down a tree in order to make your own charcoal to use at home. Of course, the next step after all of that, and it was sort of like a roundabout circle in a way. We started with the stove, then went to the charcoal making kilns, and then we got into the whole idea of how do you plant, the millions of trees in the dryland areas that are necessary for not only replacing what's been cut down in the last 100 years, but what we're going to be using in the years to come. So after many years of doing the traditional digging a hole with a seedling and a plastic bag, we find that works very well, and it's a great way of planting trees. We like every way of planting trees, of course. We just found that in especially dryland areas, that method becomes very expensive, because if you go to a lot of places where charcoal making's happening, it might be a pastoral region, so getting labor to dig holes and water trees is difficult. Getting water by itself is even difficult. Sometimes people have to carry water on their backs for 5 kilometers, and if you're asking them now to use that to water tree seedlings, it's a very tedious task for a lot of people. And then the logistics behind it. When you're trying to get tree seedlings down into the interior of Kajiado County during the rainy season, you know, the roads are all muddy, suddenly a truck is stuck in the mud, and then you get the trees in the ground and it stops raining and you have to pay for watering them. So we started finding that planting trees on large scale was very, very expensive. And the light bulb moment that kind of came up for this whole idea of planting trees directly from seed and doing the Seedball project was in about the 2014, 2015. I'd had a planting contract with somebody in Mololongo near the highway. And I was here on one side of the highway, you know, digging a hole, buying a 30-shilling seedling, watering it. And I happened to look over on the main bit of the highway, and the sides of it, those highway crews who are slashing grass were cutting down baby acacia seedlings of the same species that I was paying 40 shillings to plant just a couple meters away. So it got me thinking, wait a minute, if these things are growing like weeds on one side, why do I have to force this tree to grow? Which then, of course, got me thinking more, wait a minute, who planted all of these trees in Kenya in the first place that we've been cutting down for so many years? And of course, it's natural regeneration. It's a lucky seed that falls in the right place at the right time is able to become a tree. So we found that those ones on the side of the highway, and you may notice this when you drive around Kenya, there are lots of acacia trees wherever people sell river sand. And those lorries carrying the river sand, those big trucks, have seeds in the sand and they're blowing out in the wind. Some of them are landing in conducive bits and able to germinate and start growing. And they end up being cut down by the guys maintaining the highways, of course. So anyway, that got me very excited about trying to plant trees from seeds. So I went to the Kenya Forest Research Institute, KEFRI, who've been incredibly helpful over this whole journey so far. And I bought a whole bunch of tree seeds from them and went and spread them out at a small farm in Isinya near Kajiado. And it was one of those years where the rains failed. And every time I visited those seeds, I noticed more and more of them were, of course, being eaten by mice and birds and guinea fowls and squirrels. Because in nature, there's so many types of small animals and things that eat seeds. And unless we really had tons of money to feed everything and then have leftover seeds, we needed a way to protect the seed until the rain came. So I've partnered with an old friend of mine called Elson Karstad, who runs a business called Chardust Limited. What they do is they buy waste charcoal dust. Wherever you see charcoal being sold in Nairobi, all of that dust that's left over on the ground, he buys it from them, and they're making briquettes, and he's a very good inventor. So I asked him if he could create a machine that could make hundreds of kilos a day of coated tree seeds. And so these are the seed balls. I'll hold one up, and you'll see them on the presentation. And the basic concept is very simple. It is what it is advertised. It's a seed inside of a ball of charcoal dust. This ball of charcoal dust prevents the seed from being eaten by mice and birds, because when any animal is walking past, it has no idea that there's a seed inside of it. So you can throw this out and it will sit there for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, years even, waiting for the very right conditions. And once it rains enough, all the charcoal dust melts off, and then the seed is back to its natural state to be able to start growing. And so this has been a very interesting, if you could go to the next slide. So this has opened up a very interesting aspect of being able to do, there on the slide you can see, so we buy all of the tree seeds certified from KEFRI. They do an incredible job of sourcing indigenous seeds from all over the country, all the way down to the province level. So if you're planting lots of trees in Savo, you can get seeds from Kibwezi province. You can see the big pile of charcoal dust where we buy a lot of the type of charcoal that we get from. And then if you could go to the next slide. You can see now in this set of photos, this is examples of different types of animals that are eating seeds right next to seed balls and ignoring them. And this has been a really interesting thing for me to see traveling around Kenya in different places. You can put down some bare seeds and put down some seed balls next to each other, and anything from mice to squirrels to small birds, they just have no idea that inside of that ball of charcoal dust there's something delicious, a tasty little seed to eat. So this has been a really interesting thing because it means you can do tree planting year round. And for so many years when we were doing the traditional way of digging the holes, we were kind of burdened by the rain. And you're always waiting, looking for that one cloud, thinking, is it going to start raining today or next week? And trying to mobilize, if you needed labor, suddenly all the farmers have gone back to the farm to work on their own land. So that was a challenge. So being able to distribute seeds year round has proven to open up many, many doors that we weren't able to do before. And getting seeds out to places, especially in the dry lands, access is sometimes almost impossible in the rainy season. And as we know, even with the price of charcoal, it goes up during the rains because no one can go to the areas where charcoal is being made. So if you're able to plant trees in the dry season, this means you can be active on restoration year-round. If you could go to the next slide. So how do you plant seed balls? This is a question many people ask. There's so many different ways of planting seed balls. The only sort of law we say there is you just have to kind of think like a tree at the end of the day. Like in the famous parable, if the seed falls on the rocky ground, it's not going to grow. If it falls in the fertile soil, it has a good chance. So we tell people to spend a lot of time interacting with nature and learning about your environment around you and seeing where do you see indigenous trees growing back and what are those conditions that allow natural regrowth. And then how can you speed that up by planting more seeds? So it's been a very interesting exercise working with so many people, learning more about the different ecosystems in Kenya and learning more about when are trees successfully growing naturally in the wild? How do we learn from nature and how do we copy that? So we've been able to be lucky enough to work with anyone from all the way to amazing pilots around Kenya, conservationists who, while they're doing aerial patrols looking for elephants that may have gone into a farm or illegal charcoal making or illegal timber making, if they're flying around anyway, they're able to take a small little packet of seed balls with them, pour it out the window as they're going. And they just match the same species with what's being cut down. We've been able to work with some incredible community groups all over the country. Many, just very good grassroots groups of people who want to see a change where they're from. And a big shout out to groups like the Kibwezi Well-Wishers, who many of the participants, when they were kids, they saw the forest being used for charcoal, for firewood, for brick making. Now they're old enough to want to grow more trees and restore all of those forests. We've been able to do tree planting with drones. Some people have been using drones. Even in Somalia, they've bought seed balls from us with the UN. We have another couple partners in Kenya that this is all starting to kick off in the next few months now that the licensing has come through. But then all the way down to a very low-tech method of some students from a school in Kitasuru have come up with a method of tying an old plastic water bottle to the side of a camel, and when the camel is walking around, the seeds drop out one by one by one. So it's been a very interesting method of looking at the limits of people's imagination, really. There's so many people with such cool ideas thinking about different ways of copying nature to plant more trees. And not only trees, we've also been doing indigenous grass seeds, because in many ecologies and landscapes in Kenya, you don't just want wall-to-wall forest cover, especially the dry lands. You need healthy pastures as well as healthy woodlands. So we do grass seeds, we also do tree seeds. And if you could go to the next slide, please. I can go through these kind of quickly, just so you can follow up on the presentation later. But a couple different areas where we've been able to plant and follow up ourselves over the years in Kenya. So some in Machakos for a lot of pasture improvement. This group is smallholder farmers working with World Vision who are getting into dairy farming. So they needed to grow forage trees for the dairy cows as well as grass. If you could go to the next slide, please. This was an amazing one that we worked with gentleman Nick Okello from Base Titanium. Once they finished mining the titanium, they have a whole restoration plan. And this is very interesting because we could do it in many more mining sites in Kenya, which is something we're looking into. And there's a classic before and after picture. In fact, even today, the trees are now about head height from the last time I got information from him. We've worked with groups like the Sheldrick Trust, who does wildlife work around Savo, but also works with a lot of communities. And they were restoring some of those SGR Murram pits with some volunteers, which was really great that everyone just had a good day out, grabbed a couple bags of seeds, spread them on this old quarry. And as you can see, the acacia trees are coming back very nicely. In the bottom picture, we have a lot of people who are Nairobi based but have land up country. And they'd like to plant some trees, especially along the fence line, and to demarcate the area. And it's very simple because with a packet of seeds, you can just send this by G4S or Fargo, put it on a matatu, it goes to the corners of the country, and you start planting right away. And go to the next slide, please. Our one big thing that we really, really want to focus on, and we ask all the Rotarians through your networks and people you might know, is how do we restore these areas that have been hit badly by charcoal making? And there's so many parts of the country where illegal or illicit charcoal making has taken out the prime species of trees that make the best type of charcoal. So now you get type of landscapes where all of those old biodiverse, hardwoods like the acacia tortilis are now missing. And for us, it's a very big thing of trying to get back into those areas, because of course my main business is Nyamachoma Jikos, so with no more charcoal in 20 years, what will we do? And we do need to restore the drylands just as much as we need to work on all of the water towers in the highlands in Kenya. And we've had amazing partners like Diamond Trust Bank who've been very key on helping. They did the first 1 million tree seed drop with more than 100 ladies who they hired for a day of work planting the seeds, and partnership with the Mar Elephant program, who donated some hours on their helicopter to plant up on the hills. And there are about 50,000 trees, maybe more, coming up, and this is only in a few years, just outside of the Mar in Narok South. We could go to the next one. And some of our future plans. So we've reached the stage now where we're learning more and more about ecological restoration. And of course, one big thing that keeps coming up is when you look at forests, forests aren't just trees. Forests are shrubs and wildflowers and vines. And you look at all of the savanna grasslands, it's not only grass. It's all, again, different wildflowers, nitrogen-fixing small plants. So there's this big demand for indigenous seed of different types of indigenous plants in Kenya. And luckily we can get tree seeds from Kefri, we can get grass seeds from the Ray Trust in Baringo, but all of these we have more than 6,000 species of plants in Kenya right now. And if you're doing a restoration program in Kisumu, in Marsabit, in Voi, in Bomet, you name it, to be able to match what type of indigenous species grow in the past, historically in those areas for restoration, it's a very key thing to have access for native seeds and indigenous seeds. So we're looking into working more and more with different local communities to start on wild seed collection. And we think this has a huge potential for green-collar jobs in the future for thousands of people all over Kenya who want to help in this entire industry of ecological restoration. And the more we learn about the ecosystem services and what biodiversity does for the bottom line of the GDP of the country, the more we're learning that this is something we have to be doing on a massive scale and using, again, biomimicry, copying how these ecosystems work in nature as well as possible. We could do the next slide, please. We also are going to increase our mapping. We have some very fun, if you go onto our website, interactive Google Maps, where you can click on each different point that we've been able to personally do follow-ups on and open it to more citizen science, crowdsourced interactive mapping. So if you go and plant some seed balls back at your house, you can drop a little pin, say what species you planted, when you planted them, and then for follow-ups over the years, say 50 years from now, it simplifies, maybe some scientist's job who's figuring out how many trees grew from that particular Rotary club who went all out and planted 10,000 trees in, Mwingi and Kitui or something. So technology has been an amazing thing to be able to work with, using not only the follow-up and monitoring, but also things like WhatsApp for planting and videos, instruction videos, and so on. If we could do the next slide, please. And then how can you help? And how can you get involved in doing this? So we've set up Seedballs as part of our small family business. So we sell them for about 600 bob a kilo, and you get about 500 seed balls per kilo. So they're basically a shilling each. We just reinvest all of those profits into doing more education, more outreach, different types of seeds, R&D. And you can do anything from getting your own private branded bags. So a lot of people do them for birthdays and weddings, sometimes corporate events. If you're having a big event about climate change, rather than give everyone a plastic tote bag or something, you can give people a bag of tree seeds. They can go home and plant and remember when you attended that event or conference, this is where your forest has come from. We've been able to work with, we had some really, really good press through some viral videos that are still going on, actually. I think there are over 100 million views on some of them. This has actually spread the seed ball word as far as people in Mexico are making them and using airplanes. There's someone in Ivory Coast doing them with drones. Dozens of people in Pakistan and India, some projects in South Africa and Zambia. who have all been inspired by seeing us doing this direct tree seeding and have started themselves. So we've had inquiries from all over Kenya and all over the world of people who ask how can they chip in and how can they help. So we've partnered with those 6 organizations listed above, and they're our green partners. So you can buy them 5 kilos or 20 kilos of seed balls, and they will go and plant it on your behalf. A lot of them will do that as part and parcel of their day-to-day work. So if someone is going on patrol, like maybe the lion guardians, they're going to go and look for, is there a lion that's going to go and eat someone's cows? You know, they'll take some seed balls and help actually grow people live fences, or grow back more of those trees that were cut down to make the bomas or whatever. And so you can log on to our website, get more information about each of those different organizations and what they're doing and how you can get in touch with them. And then, if we could go to the last one, finally, we've actually been lucky enough to work with a couple really fun Rotary clubs from all over Nairobi and all over Kenya, actually, some even in Voi. And as a really great event for a good Rotary outing, you can partner with the many different hiking groups around Kenya, Let's Drift, Summit Seekers, organize a day to go walking with your kids, your family, your friends, out in the forest, out in the savannas. And I couldn't advise that more for how one can learn about our different ecosystems and different environments in Kenya. Is you have to spend time in them, and you need to get out, leave the house on a Sunday morning, get a bicycle, go out, spend time outdoors, talk with all the local people, learn the names of some of the different plants, learn the names of some of the different birds, and the stuff you in turn will learn from all of that will surprise you, I think. And yeah, for more information, just please check our website. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Seedballs Kenya. And yeah, thank you very much. And we hope to really look forward to doing more work with the Rotary clubs. And a big asante to Auntie Kathy and the whole team here for setting up such a big event for me today. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon again. I want to thank Teddy very much for his wonderful presentation. And you can plant masses of trees with seed balls. And we were hoping that people will buy some. We would like people to buy. We would like to even adapt a forest where we can go with a drone or get people with helicopters when he's going on his next trips. We can somebody can accompany him, or we can sponsor thousands of trees. And even if it's 10,000, we'll have done, 5,000 trees from the seedlings, and we can actually keep track and just put our mbao there. This is done by Rotary Club, the World Nairobi South, and other Rotary clubs can join us, and we will have bettered our environment, and we will partner with him all the way. Thank you very much, Teddy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Teddy and Rotarian Kathy, for that wonderful talk. Teddy, thank you so much. So we're now going to go ahead with the question and answer session.
Thank you, Mr. Kinyanjui, for the wonderful talk. I think you have been so clear. There don't seem to be many questions. There's only one question that we received from James Maora. What are the costs like per acre, say in Gilgil for 125 acres?
Okay, thank you. Cost per acre is a very interesting question. It varies on 2 things. It would be how dense of a forest do you want? Do you want trees 1 meter apart, or do you want trees 10 meters apart? And also how degraded the land is. Are there no trees? Are there some existing forests? What we would always advocate for is for an area around Gilgil is probably not to do a solid wall-to-wall forest, but maybe do some patches. So if you kind of imagine how a leopard spots look, and that would mimic, I think, historical land use cover in a place like Gilgil. So I would probably put about maybe 1 kilo per acre, so 125 kilos, and that would give you 50 to 100 trees per acre. Of course, if you wanted to do a very, very thick forest, then you just go up from there. So it does depend on exactly what type of forest you want from your outcome. If you're planting grass seeds for pasture restoration, that typically is about 25 kilos per acre for a degraded area.
Question number 2. Can the seed balls be used for fruit trees?
That's a good question. No, unfortunately, so there would be some types of fruit trees. I think some of the more indigenous ones that probably would work. But a lot of fruit trees, typically the seed needs special refrigeration. So if you're going to store it for a long time, you have to keep it in 2 degrees centigrade or something. So there are two types of seeds. There's orthodox seed and ralcantant seed. Orthodox seed means that it doesn't need special storage. So like the acacia family, those ones can keep for many, many years in room temperature. And the other thing with many fruit trees is that they need to be grafted if it's going to be true to seed. Because say you plant a seed of an orange or something, you might not get as sweet an orange as if you did a graft from that one. So for a lot of fruit tree seedlings, it doesn't really work. But for things like the acacia, one thing that's great is it produces incredible flowers that produce incredible honey, and then you get nice honey.
Question number 3. Does one get one kind of seed or do they vary?
So we ask the customer to work backwards and ask us what they want. We typically advise people always to grow what's being cut down and overexploited where you're from. So if you're from Kwale or Kinango or something and they're cutting down Acacia nilotica, we always advise grow more of the same type of tree because it means it grows there and it means it's being also chopped down quite a lot. So you can mix them if you'd like them to be mixed, or you can have them just single species depending on what you want. And if you have a type of tree that you'd like to request that we don't have in stock, you just send us an email and we'll see if it's possible to be able to make. So if you're doing it on a controlled sort of environment, like on a farm, where you're able to actually see where they're being planted and you don't have goats coming in from the neighbors so much or something, what we've seen as working a very good method, a group called the Eden Reforestation Trust has been doing this in Kijabe and the Mau Forest, is you basically just plant them the same way people would plant maize or beans. So you get a little panga or a stick if the soil is soft, make a small hole and then drop in 3 or 4 seed balls per hole, and you don't have to cover them with soil because in essence it's like it's already covered inside of the charcoal dust. So you just lay out on your land where you want them to be planted. I'd even say do it yourself, it's good for the tummy to bend and do a bit of exercise. And just go walk, make a couple holes, drop some seeds in them, and that's it. If it is a place where there are lots of goats and wildlife, what works very well is covering it up with thorns so that when the seed is a small seedling, it doesn't get bothered too much by any browsing. One thing I forgot to mention is germination rates. It depends on the species. Some types of trees germinate 50, 60, 70%. Other types of trees germinate 10%, but over the course of 5 or 6 years. So again, depending on the rainfall, the soil conditions, and the type of tree, you get a variation of different germination rates.
So now we're going to invite our SAA for the day. That's Past President Mambo. Please take the stage. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Tipe. I don't know what there's an echo, but before I make a comment, someone seems to be having gadgets, so I think that's what they. This being a social for action between our clubs, Nairobi South and Kikuyu and the Rotary Club of KU, allow me to invite one of our district officials who is ably presenting us today, Maura. Just say hi before I proceed. Rotary and Maura.
Yeah.
Say hello.
Thank you very much, PP Vincent Mambo. It's a pleasure always to see the team. And today, good presentation from today Kinyanjui. I'm sure we're going to do something together in Gilgil. We are looking for somebody like you. We have about 128 acres there to deal with. So I'll get your number on the side and then we can start on that. Once again, it's nice to see everybody and especially Jim Bani and all that. Thank you very much. Good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Remoro. In the subjects today, as presented by Theodore Kinyanjui, you've shared quite some insightful information, and this is actually in line with what the Rotarians stand for as part of what we do to impact the society. Interesting from today's what we share today is that as we plant trees, you can actually enjoy the planting of trees. It can be an outing, and even the method or the ways in which we're doing it, using a drone or tying the bag on the back of a camel or a donkey. And again, I think you shared some quite practical examples of the project that you are currently doing. But again, the most interesting thing to note of what is quite encouraging is that you're already partnering with the Rotarians in what you're doing. Normally, we could be asking you, or we could be extending our hand or our invitation for you to join the Rotarians. But interesting, what is actually exciting to note is that you're already working with us in these issues of sustainability and try to make this better place a better place. And I want to confirm to you that the Rotarians are already converted. The only issue, and you can see that already you have an offer from Rotarian Mora. Going forward, I think the only thing that that can happen is you'll be getting more of these requests in terms of how best can we be able to partner and how can we expand what we're doing. Once again, thanks so much for taking time to share with us, and we look forward to working closely with you in terms of making this world a better place. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Over to you, Sue.
Yeah, thank you, Pipi Mambo. Did you do the SAA? Not yet?
No, not yet. Okay, because of the time, what I want to encourage members is that we have our pay bill, which is the pay bill number is 4005031. When you our minimum is normally 300 per meeting, so you're encouraged to set that, and the account is indicating your name.
Thank you so much, Pipi Mambo. We have a gift presentation we have a small gift for Mr. Teddy Kinyanjui, which will be presented by Pipi Kathy and Pipi Sarah. Please come on stage.
Oh, how lovely.
Okay, we are very grateful.
Yeah.
Teddy.
Oh, thank you very much.
This has been a fantastic talk, especially in the time when this world talk about the climate change.
Yeah.
And from you, at least Kenyans will be able to do so much with these little seeds and help with the climate change.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
It's
so
been
much,
really,
Sarah.
Thank you. God
And
bless
thank you very much,
Thank
Rotary
you.
South. I'd just like to say it's my birthday in a couple days.
Wow, okay.
And this couldn't be more perfect. It's an acacia tree.
Yeah.
And my favorite other tree planter is an elephant, because, you know, they go out, eat seeds, and plant them everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even personalized. Thank you guys so much. This
Thank
is
you.
very,
That was
very kind of
beautiful,
you.
beautiful.
Santi,
Thank
cheers.
Cheers, thank you.
I'll use this at the next toast.
For you, so it doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, how nice. Thank you very much. That's perfect.
Well, it was an honor and a privilege to have Mr. Teddy Kinyanjui speaking to us about conservation of environment. And I know I speak for all the clubs represented here today, saying that we're all passionate about environment. We have already been talking to RC Kikuyu and also RC Gigiri and RC KU about doing a joint venture concerning environment. So definitely we'll approach Mr. Kinyanjui for that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. So I'm going to close this meeting call this meeting to an end as we are taking a photograph, and I'm going to do the final toast to Rotary the world over. If you have a glass with you, if you don't have a glass with you, please put your right hand across your shoulder to to Rotary the world over. The meeting room is still open, and you can just engage with it amongst yourselves as we take a photo. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you RC Kikuyu. Thank you RCKU. Thank you RC Gigiri. It was a pleasure having you, and all the media people in the house. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Asante.